Continuing the discussion on symbiotic panentheism and its relationship to philosophical inquiry. Symbiotic panentheism, understanding the puzzle. What does the conceptual framework of symbiotic panentheism have to offer us? SP, or symbiotic panentheism, a unified view. Panentheism is a concept of size and perhaps location. God, the causative force, is omnipresent, all present. As such, the universe is immersed within him, her, it. Symbiosis is the concept of an interactive relationship. And this is where there are deep similarities between process philosophy and symbiotic panentheism. If we exist within something, that something being God or a causative force, and it is an effect upon us, that is one thing. If we exist within something and it has an effect upon us, but we also have an effect upon it, that is quite another. A quote from You and I Together in the Image of God and Stepping Up to the Creator. Symbiotic panentheism is a model of a unified view, and what a unified view is capable of doing for us as individuals compared to, I would say, a schismatic or divided view, or even dualistic view. Because symbiotic panentheism supports the idea of non-dualism as well. Not only within Christianity, but among other spiritual traditions. Its purpose is to provide an example of how a unified view might be constructed. The model is not being put forward as the correct model or orthodox model. It is simply constructed as a model, a place from which philosophers, scientists, and religious leaders and the layman can begin construction of what they believe the model should be. It is open. It is a model presenting a challenge. Here I am, now see if you can do better. The process of developing a unified view is divided into 6 segments. 1. Constructing the model. 2. Examining the impact of the model would have upon the past, present, and future. Examining the capability of the model to resolve present-day social issues. 4. Examining the capability of the model to resolve future social issues. 5. Validating the model using religious, scientific, and philosophical concepts society has already established. However fragmented these may be. Testing the model's capability to reduce trauma generated by hypothetical cataclysmic events. This challenge is not a figurative challenge, it is literal. What does the conceptual framework of SP, or symbiotic panentheism, imply about the universe in which we live? Our universe is a big place. It is not going to reveal its secrets easily. To go from Europe to the Americas was not easy in the beginning. To go from Earth to Moon, to go from our solar system to another star. I would add to go from Hubble to James Webb Telescope, to go from this galaxy to another galaxy, to go from our universe to another universe. All these accomplishments will not be easy, but as difficult as the process of expanding our presence has been, it has always intrigued us. We have constantly sought to explore the frontiers we saw before us. As we gained more and more knowledge, we found more and more frontiers. New frontiers seem never-ending. They now reach into the far expanse of the heavens, the inner sanctum of the subatomic particles, the blackest depths of the oceans, the mysterious realm of the chromosomes, the silent complexity of the brain, the curious abstraction of existence, and the perplexity and riddles of life. Still, we search, even as the endless parade of new frontiers expose themselves to our insatiable curiosity. Each revelation opens new perceptions, which we eagerly examine as we research for the understanding of the most elusive questions we can ask. What is life? Why does it exist? What is our purpose for existing? What is the universe? Where is the universe? And if there is a God, where and how big is this God? These questions are metaphysical, and the answers we obtain from science and religion as the means by which we gain knowledge that allows us to develop hypothetical answers. The universe offers us the understanding of its immense size, and with this understanding comes the realization that we must use reason to incorporate what the universe has to show us with what we believe in order to understand ourselves, in order to understand the universe, in order to understand what may lie beyond the known universe. We cannot understand the total picture unless we understand its parts. And we cannot understand the parts unless we understand the totality. The universe is part of the picture. You are a part of the picture. I am a part of the picture. Whether or not the causative force is just a part of the total picture or is viewed as the total picture is unimportant. What is important is that the concepts of the universe, you, I, and the causative force, or what religions have called God, appear to exist, and in order to understand one or the other, we have no choice but to understand them all. They all appear to be interconnected. Science can verify that. Science and religion appear to be the means of studying them, and philosophy, logic, and reason appears to be the glue to hold the pieces together. How do the concepts of SP, or Symbiotic Panentheism, reinforce the concept of panentheism? We exist within the universe. The universe is a place within which we can experience, create, produce ripples, speculate, and form perceptions. Some would say all this is experiencing does not come from the framework of free will. If this is true, then it is not creative. It is simply a rehash of of what has taken place before. The implication is that life is a series of reruns taking place here on Earth. Further, this would imply the reruns are repeated over and over and over throughout our universe. As if this wasn't enough, the events are then repeated in the same manner an infinite number of times throughout time. Can we stop there? No, for we may very well find the concept of parallel universes and even multiple universes to be a fact. And things seem to be pointed in that direction. In such an event, the reruns would be constantly showing at all theaters throughout the greater reality within which all these universes lie. Our universe lying within a greater reality and other universes lying within this same reality is simply panentheism. The concept of predetermined action makes no sense. The monotony of an infinite number of reruns would be enough to drive an intelligent being insane. Some would argue such is the case, but this trilogy begins with the assumption that the causative force, or God, is, or at least resembling, sanity. As such, one would have little choice but to reject the concept of hard determinism, along with all the paradoxes it generates, in favor of free will. And I would add here that complementarianism is the view in which both determinism and free will operate interchangeably and sometimes simultaneously within the universe or universes. Accepting free will does not place one in isolation. Free will is reinforced by religion, by science, and by philosophy. You are responsible for your actions. Without free will, there would be no accountability for the individual. The universe would have no meaning, and the causative force would have no way of changing, growing, using its omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence to her fullest potential. Without free will, action has no meaning. Without free will, the individual, the universe, and the causative force herself become meaningless. Panentheism provides the understanding regarding why the individual, souls, are so important and why free will, freedom, is the key. What does SP, or Symbiotic Panentheism, reinforce about the significance of existence, life? Life has no apparent significance to itself if life's experiences are predetermined. We exist within the universe. As such, the universe offers us a place to travel and experience. Free will provides us with the ability to travel as we determine, not as has been determined for us. As such, our new experiences become unique to us and form our awareness. If we are our awareness, then we are a form of abstraction. If total awareness is, in fact, total, it would imply our awareness must be a part of it. Free will gives us the potential to develop as a unique piece or emanation of that total awareness with unique experiences. The same process would seem to apply to total awareness, or what we call the causative force, or God. For total awareness would appear to be a summation of its unique pieces, or parts, or emanations, or images, just as we are a summation of our total experiences. The process is reinforced by the concept of panentheism, the concept of being immersed within total awareness. Under SP, life becomes significant for two reasons. Not only is it a piece or part or emanation or image of God, the causative force, but it actually is a process by which the causative force grows. Free will provides the process by which it can grow, and the universe becomes the means by which a piece of the causative force can isolate itself from itself in order to gain unique awareness. That is why every individual is unique. A unique awareness uninfluenced by its power, knowledge, and presence. Panentheism provides the location, the place for the universe. The universe provides the location, the place for parts of individual awareness. Individual awareness provides the location, the place for experiencing. Experiencing provides the location, the place for free will to operate. Individual life forms have no meaning to themselves within the confines of predestination. Free will, on the other hand, provides a significance for life to both the causative force, or God, and to all individual life forms. Freedom and free will are in essence the same thing. Freedom implies the right of self-determination without being dominated, abused, or manipulated by other physical life forms, terrestrial or otherwise. Free will implies the right of self-determination without being dominated or manipulated or abused by a causative force. To have one without the other is the same as having no freedom at all. How does symbiotic panentheism help us understand what life is? Life exists, but what is life? It is the one thing to quarrel within the family. It is quite another to quarrel within the company of others. We have been arguing and bickering over the definition of life ever since we came up with the term. We cannot say ever since we came up with the concept because after all these thousands of years, we don't even understand what the concept is. We haven't defined the concept. Without defining what life is, how are we to know when we are protecting life, respecting life, or providing life freedom? Religion, not science, goes the furthest towards defining what life is. Religion describes 3 levels of existence. Level 1, existence, atom, rock, river, planet, star. Level 2, existence with awareness of physical surroundings, bacteria, worm, bird, deer. Level 3, existence with awareness of physical surroundings and awareness of abstraction, or a self-awareness, humans. Science has accepted levels 1 and 2, but is still wrestling with level 3. Philosophy has accepted level 1, but is still wrestling with levels 2 and 3. As Homo sapiens, we quarrel over the idea of what life is, and as such, we have our family feuds. Abortion, assisted suicide, genocide, infanticide, capital punishment, artificial insemination, fetal tissue research. The quarrels go on and on with no apparent end because we haven't defined one four-letter word: life. All this quarreling takes place because the three, religion, science, and philosophy, have not come to a consensus as to what life is. In addition, the quarreling will continue to go on until they do come up to some form of consensus. It is one thing to stay confined on our planet and quarrel. It is quite another to continue sniping at each other's across the vastness of space. It is time we define life. Defining life is the function of philosophy. Do not misunderstand, it is not the function of philosophy to define life while disregarding science or what we see and observe, and religion, what we believe. It is the function of philosophy to define life through the process of mediation, establishing a unified view, building a universal philosophy regarding life. It's just such a process, and like all things in the universe, it changes with time and understanding. What does SP have to offer us as individuals? Symbiotic Panentheism offers us freedom. It offers us not only freedom from the oppressive hand of our fellow humans, nor from the potentially oppressive hand of other life forms, but freedom from the potentially oppressive hand of the causative force, or God itself. The idea of our living in a state of free will goes to the heart of what we as individuals, comprising the species Homo sapiens, have been striving to establish throughout our history. Responsibility for one's actions depends upon the acceptance of just such a concept. Hope depends upon the concept. Significance for life, willingness to struggle with adversities, idealism, sacrifice, compassion, and tolerance all depend upon the concept that we have the free will to act as we so determine. Without free will, we do not have the obligation to shoulder the responsibility for any of these behaviors. Without free will, awareness, each of us loses our independence and simply becomes awareness. Without free will, the ability to influence total awareness loses its potential. Without free will, awareness becomes simply a means by which experience flows into total awareness rather than an independent entity capable of creating the awareness it takes back to total awareness, or the causative force. The difference is what separates an entity from being an entity itself, or just an extension of a greater being. In short, without free will, you do not exist as yourself. Determinism then becomes incoherent in and of itself. Compatibilism, on the other hand, I would say, is very plausible. Not necessarily the choice between an either or, but rather both and. Free will begins with the word free, and it is freedom for the individual to travel and experience that we have been attempting to establish throughout our history. Why would we spill human blood throughout history in order to establish the concept of freedom and then turn around and give up freedom by accepting a philosophical concept known as determinism and or predestination? It is not just religion, science, and philosophy that give free will validity. The voluntary sacrifices from history by the rivers of blood also adds validity to the concept of free will. We have earned the right to freedom to choose how we define our own destiny, our purpose for existence. Having earned the right, we must now choose to do so, and then proceed to do so. If we do not, some other life form may choose to define our purpose in life for us, and we may find our freedom gone forever. And an additional note on the concept of compatibilism and its probability being likely. In many ways, God's will and man's will are not the same. Man has free will, but in many ways, God's will has been determined. However, man's will doesn't always line up with God's will. In the process view, or in a panentheistic metaphysic, free will, we have the choice, and then things are determined by what we choose. God chooses to act upon our choices, and there's an interplay between God's will and our free will. When our free will choices line up with God's will, then things become more determined in the universe and more ordered according to the principles of His kingdom. The problem within theodicy is why evil? Why does evil exist? Simply because it is a byproduct of free will, or mankind's collective bad choices that do not always line up with God's determined will. And that is a way that we can work out a model for compatibilism, where both free will and determinism operate within the same universe and universes. This explanation makes compatibilism non-contradictory. So therefore, it's not an either-or choice in most cases between theism and pantheism, or free will and determinism, but rather both and. And the panentheistic model upholds this concept.